Felicity, and we're going to be talking about using comics in the English classroom. A really interesting topic we've got here. So the chat is open, and we'll be asking some questions. So please keep your comments coming. Okay. As always, you will receive a certificate of participation and a webinar handout sent out tomorrow. If you don't receive it, check your spam. But if it's not there, email us at formazione@mlaworld.com and I'll get that to you. It will have all the information from the webinar plus a whole lot more, including a lot of worksheets for this one particular and some useful links. Anyway, as you can see from the comics on the page there, they are a great resource to use with your students. Not only is their humor a great icebreaker, but they also allow students to be creative and use the English language in new ways. Although traditional comics are not as popular in print form as they once were, going back to the 50s, 60s, 70s, okay, our screens are still filled by superheroes who first appeared in print, so they're still relevant for kids. Japanese forms such as manga, which are the print version, and anime, which is the animated version of these sort of Japanese comics, are still very popular with today's teenagers. Have you ever used comics in your English lessons? Let us know in the chat if you have. We always have some objectives. So, excuse me one moment. So, hopefully by the end of this webinar, you'll be better able to plan lessons incorporating comics. You'll be better able to exploit students' knowledge of comics and manga to create engaging activities and also to inspire students to use their creativity in using language. So, we're going to have a look first at the history of comic books. Okay, so we have all had experience of comics during our childhood. So what better than a shared experience to get people talking? So this video could be used as a lead-in to a debate. It could also be used as a listening comprehension activity using the worksheet in the handout. By the way, talking about debates, we do have a webinar coming up. I think it's in 2 or 3 weeks about debates. So please stay tuned for our webinar series on the debates. Let us know in the chat or look out for this information in the video. What is the name given to conveying stories on textiles in medieval Europe? Superman appeared in Action Comics #1 in 1939, true or false? And what were comics ordered to be after the creation of the comic code and laws? We won't look at all of this video. We'll look at a certain section, but we'll look at enough for those things to be covered. Let's have a look as we go.
They are the handheld, take-anywhere books filled with superheroes, classic stories, or adult dramas. Some of them originally sold for only 10 cents, but now go for millions. With stunning artwork and legendary storytelling, their pages have captivated readers for over 80 years. This is the history of comic books. Using images to communicate goes back to the 32nd century BC when Egyptians devised hieroglyphs with over 1,000 images representing ideas. In the same way, tapestries told stories through scenes depicted on the lush textiles in medieval European times. Mass production of paper allowed for the next medium of sequential art to emerge. While printed forms of picture-based stories appeared in Europe prior, the first American example of a comic strip came in the form of The Yellow Kid. The Kid's creator, Richard Outcault, infused the comic with political and social commentary. Due to the popularity of The Yellow Kid, other comic strips soon appeared. In 1933, Famous Funnies collected some of the serialized newspaper strips into a book format. Although this collection included reprintings, many historians have deemed this publication as the first comic book. In 1938, the golden age of comic books began with Action Comics #1. This first appearance of Superman ushered in the cape and cowl popularity of the superhero. The Golden Age would give birth to many of today's beloved heroes, including Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, Captain America, and Captain Marvel. Many of the heroes grew so popular that they became symbolic elements in the war effort in World War II, and comic covers often depicted heroes beating up Hitler. Not all comics featured heroes, though. Many of the horror comics, such as EC's Vault of Horror, drew in readers who wanted their comics more dark and macabre. The taboo-breaking storylines and shocking artwork garnered too much attention. Psychiatrist Frederick Wertham filed a study called Seduction of the Innocent, where he claimed comic books to be a source corrupting the youthful readers. A Senate subcommittee investigated, and the comic industry self-imposed a set of codes and laws to keep comics upbeat and morally positive. In 1956, Showcase Number 4 introduced the world to a new version of a DC comic favorite, The Flash. Thus, the Silver Age of comics began. During this
Okay, we'll finish with that there, but it goes on for another couple of minutes. So there is a worksheet in the handout that you'll receive that you can distribute with your class. Watch this, and we've got the answers in the handout too for you. So let us know in the chat what you had for 1, 2, and 3. I had, oops, sorry. Let me just go on. Okay, so we had tapestries as the name given to conveying stories in textiles in medieval Europe. The number 2 was false because it was actually 1938, not 1939. And they were ordered to be, or self-imposed order to be, upbeat and morally positive. I don't know how that worked out in the end. With that, I'll hand over to Felicity, who's going to tell us about an activity you can do in your classes.
So one idea of how to use comics in classes is to give the students a panel from a comic strip and to get them to dissect the situation. Ask them if they can identify the characters. Where is the scene set? What is happening? What's going to happen next? So here we can see an example of some of the scenes that you might be able to give them from comic strips.
I think this is really good use for like these sort of Cambridge exam practice, and we're going to be talking about Cambridge exams in some upcoming webinars. So these sort of Cambridge exam speaking exams are really good for this sort of thing, and it's meeting the students on their level, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really good speculation in this sense as well, but it also introduces some new vocabulary that they could then use. So another idea is to get your students to look at what has been used in the panel. Are there any speech bubbles, thought bubbles? Is there the use of onomatopoeia as well within the comic strips? Things like whoosh. Then in small groups, each student completes a panel, continuing the story in a given time. They then pass the strip to the student on their left, who does the same, so they're continuing the story. And then when the whole strip is complete, one person can read the complete strip to the class. So you get this kind of unexpected element of not knowing where the story is going to go, and each of the students having a part to play in telling that story as well.
In other webinars, we've looked at similar activities with writing stories where you write the first line, someone else writes the next line, things like that. So this is a sort of fun way of doing that in a visual medium too. We often talk about visual learners, students who are more keen on seeing things that need to have the visual information, not so much audio or written. So these comics are really good for that sort of thing. They give them that sort of support, the scaffolding that is not provided maybe in these in more let's say text-based mediums.
Yeah, absolutely. It just encourages the students as well to embrace their creativity in this sense as well. So the activity requires that they have an example of speech, thought, using possible reported speech as well, so we can incorporate some grammar into here, and also onomatopoeia as well.
Yeah, so we've got some of these blank things in the handout, but they're very easy to make, obviously, just by drawing some blank squares, some speech bubbles, things like that. I mean, the students could even create them for each other as well. It should be really fun.
So another activity you can do is the blank cartoon activity. Have a look at this cartoon and see if you can think of a caption to go alongside it. So we've got three of them here. If you've got any ideas of what the captions might be, you can write those in the chat.
We will be looking at your ideas at the end and our own ideas at the end. So keep them coming in the chat if you've got any ideas for these ones. These are just three that I found. Okay, there are no correct or incorrect answers. Okay, so like these don't actually come up. These are ones that didn't actually have one originally. Sometimes the cartoonists just create the image and give it up to the readers. In fact, Felicity's going to tell us a little bit about this tradition.
So since 1998, the popular weekly magazine The New Yorker has run a cartoon caption contest, printing single frame cartoon presenting a potentially funny situation and then awarding a prize for the best caption. This idea could be used in the classroom with the New Yorkers or other cartoons as well. So you can start the activity by urging students to describe what they can see in the cartoon, a little bit like the Cambridge speaking exams, and what is unusual about it as well, just to generate some ideas. Then you might want to ask for suggestions in captions. Maybe the teacher could also suggest some as well to get them started. And you can put the students in pairs or groups, and the students can then come up with a caption for each cartoon. The teacher monitors, suggests vocabulary, some grammar exchanges as well. And then, of course, students can present their captions to the class for each cartoon. You can make it a little competition as well. Students can then vote on which cartoon they think is the best.
Yeah, we've got some there that you can use. One funny thing that I heard is that almost all of these cartoons that they have in there, I think someone came out, they had a prize for the most generally usable caption, and it was, I would like to add you to my LinkedIn profile. So if we go back and see these, I think almost all of them could be used. The
That's
fish
wonderful.
talking to the guy, the guy walking into the bar, or crawling into the bar, and what is it, St. Peter talking to the caveman. Okay. So not just these ones, but you'll see that it seems to be something that's funny no matter what you put it on. Yeah. Anyway, continuing on, another possible activity is for particularly for elementary students, we often get requests for activities for younger students, could be to reorder a comic strip. So this is sort of things where students might not be able to handle too much written information at a time, so we're keeping it quite light. Okay, but it's really easy to do. You can just go onto the web, or if you got them print, just cut up a simple comic strip and reorder the panels. Well, cut it up. You can either hand out the panels separately or photocopy them in the wrong order, and students have to put them into the correct order. It's a little bit like these sort of activities you sometimes have in exams or things where you have to put like paragraphs or sentences in order. It's a fun type of reading comprehension which can really engage students. You may need to pre-teach some vocabulary or get students to research the vocabulary themselves. Let us know in the chat if you can reorder these ones. Okay, so this is a comic I cut up. Okay, let us know. So if you put in the chat the sequence of A, B, C, D. Obviously, it's not A, B, and C, D. Okay, and let us know. I'll give you a moment to do that before we go on to the next page. Let's have a look at what the correct one is. So we have it here. Okay, so the most important thing in a relationship between a man and a dog is that one of them be willing to take orders. So again, it's sort of good way of getting students to look at the visual information, well, look at the text, and they can be helped by the visual information too. So again, it sort of gives that sort of scaffolding for these lower level students. Um, and they could also explain what's happening. Maybe they could work out the joke. We often finish with some literature, but a little bit different today. We're going to have a look at the availability of graphic novels. Many classics of English literature are available as graphic novels, not only classics of English literature, but a lot of other things as well. But if you are looking at Shakespeare's plays, for example, they really benefit from this approach. As plays, they often require a visual element to provide context. So you can find these in bookshops. You can find them online in online booksellers. And for example, if you're studying 1984, George Orwell's 1984, or Oscar Wilde's The Picture of Dorian Gray, you can find these in the format. They contain most of the original text, probably not all, but a good quantity of it, and it's usually they try to keep them quite close to the actual original words, and they certainly will encourage reluctant readers who might be a bit um, uh, like apprehensive when they come across a big thick book, but the text will keep them the visuals will keep them going through. Okay, there's even as I was pointed out before, this series of manga Shakespeare's, so you can get manga Romeo and Juliet sort of updated into the manga world, but a really good idea as well with the original text, not necessarily all of the original text, but enough for them to get a good idea of it. Okay, really good thing there. And again, as I said, just have a look if you things like Amazon, I'm sure will sell these. If not, versions in your own language, maybe Italian or whatever language you speak in your country, you can find these as well. Often they're translated. You could also ask budding artists to illustrate a passage studied in class. So in my experience, in almost every class, there's some budding artist, and in my experience, students often begin by starting to draw manga or cartoon styles. So get them to do it and see how they go. It can be a really fun activity to get them thinking about how to deal with it, what's happening in it. Maybe you could show a video of a certain passage. If we're talking about Shakespeare, for example, it could be the balcony scene in Shakespeare. Anyway, let's see what we have. These are just, as I said, these are just my ideas, but let us know if you have any others. Okay. I had St. Peter saying to the caveman, if you'd prefer fire, I might have somewhere else for you. Uh, I had wait a second, I'm just going to move the thing here. Okay, the menu did say fresh from the sea, and the man coming in there saying one martini extra dry. Again, I'm sure in the chat there are a lot better than my ones there. So these are things that you can endlessly debate. Again, this I'd like you to add you to my LinkedIn profile, can almost always work in these sort of things as well. Anyway, in our conclusion, while manga and anime may seem a mystery for us, maybe not you, Felicity, but for old people like me, we can exploit this lack of knowledge. Why not ask students to explain what it is, why they like it, describe their favorites? So there are things that make manga and anime different from traditional comics. Certainly, the format of the book, they generally read it from the what would be for us the back to the front. Okay. Drawing stickmen in classes. I know it's not exactly comics, but this sort of simplified drawings can really help illustrate topics regarding tenses or vocabulary. So you could use comics to help demonstrate narrative tenses, things like this. They can be really useful. So use them to teach grammar points as well. I think that's a really good idea. And above all, there should be something fun to do in the lesson. So aren't the best lessons always the ones where the students really don't realize that they're learning? Okay, they think they're just having fun, but we're sort of pushing them to communicate with each other or read something or write something or create something based on what they're reading. Let us know in the chat if you've got any suggestions. We have many ideas for future webinars, but we always welcome your own ideas. There will be a questionnaire when you finish the webinar, so please let us know there what sort of future ideas you have. By the way, I just want to announce that in the next month or so, we're going to have a special webinar series on Cambridge exams. MLA, I'm not sure if you know, but MLA is Europe's largest Cambridge exam preparation provider, okay, which quite possibly in the world, since Cambridge is based in Europe. Teaching over 1,000 students weekly, and we're going to be running exam sessions this summer in the UK, Ireland, and the USA. For this reason, we want to offer this webinar series that's going to offer practical classroom-ready strategies for key exam papers, that is A2, B1, and B2. Even if you don't teach Cambridge, you don't prepare students for Cambridge exams, it's still going to have a lot of useful activities to do in your class to develop core language skills for certain levels. These are the dates, so they're not consecutive. We're going to have two other webinars after next week's one on other topics. But we have next week, we're going to be looking at A2 speaking. On Thursday, the 21st of May, we're going to be looking at B1 listening. On the 28th of May, we're going to look at B2 writing. And on the 4th of June, which I think is going to be our last webinar for the season, we're going to be looking at B2 reading and use of English. So please stay tuned for those. I think we're going to have some special guests from Cambridge University Press to present with me there. So we're going to have some new faces and new materials. And obviously, you get a certificate and a webinar handout for all of those as well. Anyway, thank you very much, Felicity, for presenting with me. Thank you to all the participants. As I said at the beginning of the webinar, you will receive a certificate of participation by email tomorrow and an accompanying handout with the worksheets that we referred to and all the description of the activities, plus a lot of useful links there. It will be in the email with that certificate. If you don't receive them, then just write to me at Formazione and I'll get that out to you. As I mentioned on the last page, next week we will be joined for the first of our four webinar series on the A2 key speaking paper for training learners for excellence. We're going to be joined by a special guest from Cambridge, Charles Stewart, who's professional learning and development specialist at Cambridge University Press and Assessment. I hope you'll join us, and just remember that you don't have to attend all of the sessions, but I think they'll all be useful anyway. Plus, we have another couple of webinars in between on other topics. Thanks everyone for attending, and hope to see you next week. Thanks you, Felicity.
Thanks, Josh.
Bye, everyone.